like to welcome you all to Oboe Day 2021. It's lovely to see you all here and in person. That's fabulous. I'm going to make the microphone a little lower. I'm even shorter than you are.
Even shorter.
Even shorter. First, just a couple of logistical things. I'd like to let you know that in our instrument storage room down the hall, there's all-day oboe repair. And in 1075, which is down there, there are a whole bunch of lovely Fox oboes that were brought by Stephanie Patterson, who is an alumna and who works for Fox Products, and they're down there, and please take advantage of trying them all out. She brought all sorts of different models, and they are wonderful, and who knows that I'm not going to walk away with one of them today, so don't take the one I'm interested in, okay? And second, I would like to welcome Dr. Erin Hill from the University of Nevada at Reno, who has come all that way, all that far away to here to visit with us and work with us today. And I thought I'd tell you just a little bit about him. He's clearly an oboe player, or is he? He has an extensive performing career in the oboe. He has won several competitions and is playing principal oboe on a Grammy-winning recording. That's pretty awesome. And also extensive experience as a chamber and orchestral musician. He's traveled the continent giving master classes. He gave a fabulous master class to my own oboe studio last night. And he also performs on Baroque oboe, classical and jazz saxophone, and jazz oboe, as you will hear today. So, truly a Renaissance man. We've had a wonderful visit so far, and I know you're going to enjoy him immensely.
Thanks, Dr. Hamilton, for the introduction and for everything that's gone into an event like this. This weekend has been so much fun already, and it's been the result of months and months of conversations, hopes and dreams, and nitty-gritty logistical plans, all the things that it takes to bring it together, including efforts from so many of the students here who've been running around making this possible. It's been a real pleasure getting to know all of you. And my travel and the maintenance class we'll be having this afternoon were made possible by Fox Products. I play a Fox oboe, and I hope you have a chance to try them. Stephanie has several. I think it's extra special playing on an oboe made down the road in this country. It's made in South Whitley, Indiana by a wonderful bunch of people, including this oboe itself was made by Stephanie Patterson, Fredonia class of 2012, a student of Dr. Hamilton's. Really cool to get to know the people who make your instrument and to know that they're wonderful musicians themselves. I first met Stephanie, she went to grad school with my wife, and I went to her master's recital, and we became fast friends in oboe nerdland. So yeah, I've been playing this instrument for 5 years. I'm excited to get to play a few things for you today. You're going to hear a short but very eclectic program. The first piece is 2 movements of the Bach D minor partita, originally for violin. And this has, today I'll be playing some selections from a recent recital I did that was all based on projects I did during the pandemic. A little over a decade ago, I started working on the D minor violin partita and put so much work into the final movement, the chaconne, that I didn't touch the other 4 movements for several years. When the pandemic happened, they rose to the top of the list because there weren't orchestral things happening. One of my best friends from school is a violinist, and we started having weekly phone conversations about just how we were doing, our mental well-being. And we decided to also have musical conversations. We sent each other recordings of things we were working on, and I decided as long as I'm sending recordings back and forth with a violinist, maybe I should play some violin music again. So I got this back out. Today I'll be playing the Allemande and the Courante for you. And a lot of what we went for was not trying to have this become a violin, but to take advantage of the oboe's qualities. The way that the low notes always feel kind of big no matter what you do, the way that you want the high notes to shimmer, are very unique to the oboe, and it sits pretty well with these 2 movements. So J.S. Bach's D minor violin partita, the Allemande and Courante. keeping the reed ready what with a mask on is a whole new dynamic. Make sure.
This next piece I'm going to play is by Cuban-Canadian composer Hilario Duran. And full disclosure, I'm Canadian, which has made me interested in finding Canadian works written for oboe. What I really like about this piece is it is a classical crossover piece, which means it has both classical and jazz elements to it. And you're going to see that we're going to end up doing some more jazz today, too, after this. Oboe is not necessarily normally associated with jazz, but we have some lovely works written for us that bring that part of our character out, and it's pretty cool. I'm also thrilled to be joined by Dr. Nick Weiser, who is head of our jazz program here, and I am also happy to have Caleb Duden here, who is one of our jazz students. He's turning pages now, but in another piece, he's going to be playing the bass. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy.
not hear every day. It's a little bit of jazz oboe. This is under the theme of, I talk a lot about lifelong learning and always wanting to take on new challenges and projects. When I was teaching at Wisconsin-Madison, I had a colleague who played Baroque bassoon, so I decided to learn Baroque oboe and get very involved in that. When I joined the faculty at Nevada, I noticed we had a fantastic jazz program, and so I wanted to learn from them. I'd played some jazz casually and never studied formally. So I started taking jazz lessons with one of my jazz studies colleagues, Josh Reed, who it turns out is one of Nick Weiser's classmates. In the very small world that we live in. So when I had an opportunity to commission a local composer as part of a group called Renew Music, a Reno new music group called Renew, I pursued a local recent jazz alum from UNR named Tristan Selzler to write somewhat jazz inspired music that would suit the oboe well. And he wrote 4 pieces, one of which was this ballad that he felt very heavily inspired by the lyrical playing of tenor saxophonist Sonny Rollins. 4 is one of my favorites. And it's been a lot of fun playing it this time for the first time with not just piano, but also bass. It adds a ton to it. And this is the first piece where I've ever felt comfortable taking solos on oboe. And it's hopefully the start of something that I challenge myself to do a lot. I feel like at its best, it feels a whole lot like playing Bach. And the level of spontaneity you have to have with it gets into everything else you do. So I hope you enjoy Transformation in Time of COVID by Tristan Selzler from Reno. I wanted to invite everybody involved in the free improv piece to come on up on stage while I explain what it is. We don't have to do a grand entrance or anything like that. So for those of you who weren't part of this session yesterday, this studio was very wonderfully game to try some free improv communication together yesterday. Most of us had never met each other, but we got in a circle and we made up sounds in each other's general direction. We did some amount of turning to this person, turning to that person, and making chamber music on the spot. Come on up. Making sure that at any given time, some people have the tune, some people don't have the tune. If someone played something triumphant, maybe the next person would play something a little bit more pained, to try and have as much variety as possible without the assistance of a musical score or anything pre-composed. So these are all of our improvisers, right? So if we might distribute ourselves nicely and roundly, this is going to be a premiere because all of this is completely made up. So if you'll indulge us a little bit, I always love doing this with new people. Here's a little bit of free improvisation for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oboists. That wasn't part of it. That's part of what we're about to play, so I'll pick it up. She's trying to sell me on starting to use an iPad, and I'm nervous, but I know that it's going to be a part of my future later this year, so I'm very lucky to have an expert walking me through.
Well, and the thing about an iPad is it doesn't fly off the stand. On the other hand, if it fell off the stand, that would be kind of cataclysmic. So there are bad things. Anyway, next we're going to play a piece by Taya Musgrave. We're just going to play one movement of her duet, Take Two Oboes, which was written for Nicholas Daniel, who is an English oboist, and she is an English composer. And it's just a lovely little movement. I had a really fun time yesterday recording this with Aaron, and we would like to play this little movement for you today. And enjoy.
So this has been a lot of fun getting to play all this different music for you. The last selection that we have is an in-person, thank goodness, version of a virtual collaboration that I did with both of these wonderful people, Sarah Hamilton and Nick Weiser. At a great distance, I have all these memories of, I wrote the arrangement, and then we did one of those video editing things, thanks to your video production program here that's absolutely fantastic. Putting together a recording of me, a recording of Dr. Hamilton, a recording of Dr. Weiser, and making them sound like we were in the same room, which was absolutely never, for any of you who did video collaborations, it's never how it feels when you're just listening to a click track, you're listening to other people play, and they can't hear you. It is so satisfying to get to do this in person and feels so different. But this is an arrangement I did of a standard that entered the jazz literature thanks to people like Miles Davis. It had also a role in the title sequence of the movie Moulin Rouge. It got out there a lot. But we're doing a little bit of a bossa version of it. It's called Nature Boy. Originally, the original song was written by a composer named Eden Abes, and if you see in the program his name's written in lowercase, that's intentional. That's something he did like what the poet E. E. Cummings did. He liked his name spelled with lowercase. So here is a live version of the virtual collaboration we did of Eden Abes' Nature Boy that I arranged.
So, I don't think that was it.
Halloween.
Halloween. No, I think that's not good. Okay, now we're gonna get set up for the Oboe masterclass, and I know there are a couple of you that are going to come up and play. Olivia, are you okay to start? And we will set up here. You guys are, of course, welcome to be here in the masterclass. You're welcome to come closer if you would like, if you're comfortable with that. Otherwise, we will have this mic and we will be using it. And we will be in Rausch for the masterclass for the next hour, and then we will be moving into, that's the lighting I wanted. Yes.
Thanks,
Okay.
Alonzo.
Yeah. In the next hour, we'll be moving into 1075, where the Fox oboes are, and then we will be adjustment class.
This drive. So you have a movement of the Saint-Saëns Sonata?
Yes, the second movement.
Wonderful. We've got enough time. Would you be comfortable doing the whole thing, or do you want to break it up into sections?
I could do the whole thing.
Wonderful. So I can promise you I won't interrupt you at all. You can enjoy playing on this gorgeous stage. Do you want to play a few notes and then play the whole movement? Great. exciting to get those ringing notes on a stage this nice?
Yes.
Yes. So are you currently in college, high school?
High school.
High school. My goodness, you are far along. You make such a wonderful sound. I wouldn't change anything about the interpretation you're doing. There's something about when you do a lot of traveling master classes, when people play the Saint-Saëns second movement, I almost always have to have conversations about how to balance being rhythmically reliable along with being flexible in the outer sections. I wouldn't change a thing about what you did. It was wonderful, and it felt fresh and spontaneous, but also like you were in control of what you were doing. And I very rarely get a chance to say that to people, so congratulations on that. A little bit of what I want to work on is first some physical relaxation, and then a little bit of a menu of a few different ways that I like to work on pitch. I don't like to work on pitch the same way every time. I like to keep it fresh. So I'm going to give you a few choices. You can choose which one's first. But first, for physical relaxation, how do you like to warm up? Because you just had to sit for a couple hours and then stand up and play. Given a chance, what would you do if you had 20 seconds? 20 seconds to play some notes. What would you check on your instrument to make sure it feels good?
You mostly check like the low register. So
Low
that's
register.
what we're most trouble with.
Great, do 5-10 seconds of low note stuff. One thing I'd say is so you were checking two things when you did that. You were checking how do your low notes feel, and you were also checking how do I feel doing a chromatic scale. So that being two different aspects, make it a little simpler. Are you familiar with C major arpeggios?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So fewer notes. Just that much. Nice. Now, do that again, but first, introduce yourself as you would. Tell me your name.
My name is Olivia Petty.
Wonderful. Keep your head where it is right now and do the C major arpeggio again. And now the low C comes out. I often wish that we talked more like we were talking on the phone with somebody who has a little bit of trouble hearing us. I think about elderly relatives of mine with hearing loss. I get on the phone with them, it's like, "Hi, how are you?" And that's about as much air as we should use. But you'll notice, and we can all try to do this ourselves, if you pretend to pick up the phone, you don't need any more inhale than it takes to say, "Hi, how are you?" Let's all try it. "Hi, how are you?" You don't need any more inhale than that. So simulating that, play that C major arpeggio down. Nice. And the more playing feels like speaking, the more relaxed we'll be about it, as opposed to, oh gosh, I hope today's the day when I make that oboe sound I've been hoping to make my whole life. The next thing is, I want to make sure, I showed this to the college students last night. The first warm-up I ever learned in my first lesson in 7th grade was being able to slur to low C from anywhere in a C major arpeggio all the way up to high C. So let's repeat after me, do E to C. G to C. There you go. And that was our first challenge. So how many of y'all have played Pulcinella? So yeah, Pulcinella. A lot of it is anytime I struggle with slurring to a low note, which is almost every time I get the horn out to play, and I try to make it a little better, start on the low C and then play the middle C. So reverse the order. Now add a third C at the end. The first one, you didn't feel great about it before you left. Take all the time you need to have it feel ringing. There it is. And then it connects smoothly. So applying this. that whole passage now. Nice. There's also one of the fundamental rules of master classes is sometimes someone just needs another try. And it doesn't matter what you say, they're going to get it once they feel more comfortable. Now the pitch menu. Do you want to do chord tones, harmonics, lower octave comparisons, or special fingerings?
Do lower octave.
Lower octave comparisons. There was a da-da-dum, ba-da-dum-bum. Are you comfortable playing that down the octave? So play those two measures down the octave. Great, now play the first measure again down the octave and immediately play it up the octave trying to imitate the pitch you just made. Gorgeous. You don't need to change another thing about it. Were you aware of what you did physically differently that time?
My, I'm sure it was a bit more open.
Little bit. So it's counterintuitive. Those notes, I don't want to say they tend flat. I do want to say that they won't go sharp with the rest of the instrument. And the way to get them up to pitch isn't to bite them. Biting is hard to undo, and then you end up pinching all the other notes more. They're not that responsive to biting. They're much more responsive to feeling like you're singing in your upper head voice. So a certain lightness about them. Rather than sort of an effort stuffing. If you try too hard on those notes, they fight back. A lot of what I find myself doing on those notes is just picking up my eyebrows to remind myself of that. So the rest of the menu, just to show you, since you nailed it after the first try, so here are the other things that I like to do. Do you know any harmonic fingerings?
No.
So a harmonic fingering, any clarinetists? This is a room without clarinetists. Oh, it's a live stream, so a little bit. So anyone on clarinet, you know, instead of overblowing an octave, you hit the register key and it goes up a 12th. We're making ourselves clarinetists when we do harmonics. So a high B harmonic is if you finger a low E, but with the side octave key. So first play a low E, and then no half hole or anything, just side octave. Nice. So what do you think of the pitch and sound quality when you do a harmonic? This was your first harmonic ever, right? I love collecting reactions from people doing a thing for the first time. How did it feel? And it's okay if part of it is something that you don't like about it.
Play it again.
Yeah. Yeah, compare it to the traditional fingering. Yeah, how does it feel different from the traditional fingering?
It's a little more flat.
It's actually a little sharper. Yeah, since it generates the fifth of a chord, because it's a B that's based on an E, a perfect fifth is going to be wide. It's going to be a little sharp, so it naturally sharpens it a little bit. Notice if you try to bend your normal fingering down and you try to bend your harmonic down, you'll be able to bend your normal fingering much more easily. The difference between try bending both down. Yeah, so you can bend the traditional fingering a lot more. The harmonic automatically stabilizes things. However, it sounds a little bit foggy, ghosty, like it's being played in another room. But what I do a lot of is if I feel like a high B needs to be up as the fifth of a chord, or if I'm playing with people who are going sharp, I try to imitate the pitch of my harmonic. So play a quick harmonic, then traditional. Do it again. Raise your eyes a little bit for the traditional again. There it is. A side benefit of opening the eyes for these high notes is that conductors will think that you're watching. And they'll be very flattered. And if the conductor thinks that you're watching, they'll almost always like your tone. That's what a conductor tends to like about an oboist, is if they think that the oboist is attentive and collaborative. Sometimes it's just us trying to play in tune. So we've done comparison to low octave. We've done using a harmonic fingering to imitate stability. The next thing, do you ever play with drones?
Not usually.
Not usually. I try to, almost every time I practice, it really grounds me. A lot of my lesson of drones, I see a smile. Are you a drone? You play with drones a lot? So when I play with drones, the thing that it reminds me is whatever note I'm trying to play, I'm not just going for one version of it, where I'm playing in the center of the tuner, and then I'm going to self-righteously go into rehearsal and be like, well, my B's right. If you're out of tune, you're wrong. Come to me because I know what I'm doing. I don't like playing with a tuner on my stand with other people around. Drones feel a lot more like what it's like playing with other people, except other people might move. The drone's not going to move. The thing about drones is that your high B should be different depending on what note the drone is playing. So if I play a middle B, play a high B and tune with it, you're going to want to just float with the same pitch I'm making. Nice. So we matched really well. It sounded like an organ registration where you have a 4-foot stop and an 8-foot stop, press one pedal. Next thing, if I play an E, your B is going to need to be a little up. Just like with the harmonic, it's going to need to be a fifth. So I'll play an E, you play a B. Ah. Ooh, you found it. Great, let's get that from the beginning. Nice, and you can hear our matching tones. This is such a nice room that you can hear that third person playing. The next challenge is the major third, which is going to have to be low. So if I play a G natural and you play your high B, now it's going to be a lower B. You're making mystery eyes. So I'm not going to give you the answer. One of my beliefs in tuning is not to go around the room going lower, higher, as much as sort of when it's a drone in someone, I like scratching my chin and then going thumbs up. So you could tell it was beating a little bit. I want to show you a simulation of what I like to do when I'm wondering where I am. So I'm going to have you play a G, I'm going to play a B, and I'm going to play way flat. I'm going to play sharp, flat, and then on. Just to show, I'm giving myself experiences of when I play sharp, it's going to feel a little sour. When I play flat, it's going to feel a little muddy, but I'm going to own it. And then I'm going to find something in the middle so I don't feel like, oh, I'm always sharp on that or I'm always flat on that. So give me a G. And then you hear whir as that whirling third note. Now play a G. And then with that amount of control, you know what you're looking for. So trade back. I'm going to play a B, you play a B, an E, you play a B, a G, you play a B. Great. Nice. Now be willing to wiggle. You'll find it. There it is. Now get it right out. Nice. So just to get those high notes tuning, I want to hear from here to there. fantastic high notes. A lot of what I like about that was not only were they in tune, but they were ringing. And I feel like pursuing notes for sound rather than just for visuals can give you interesting insights, but pursuing them for sound, then you're going after positive aspects. And the concept of tone doesn't become, I want to sound not harsh, it becomes, I want to sound warm and ringing, which are ultimately really fun things to do. Thank you for playing, this sounds fantastic. You had a chance to have a lesson with Dr. Hamilton yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Very happy to hear it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And, oh, of course. Who's next? Annalise. I have a short video with some of my trick fingerings. That was one thing on the menu we didn't do. Is that for my high B, yeah, there's the harmonic. There's also, you can put down your low C key. There's also the Vienna fingering, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's a very loud fingering. I had a concert once where I got so much water gurgling in my B. It was in the A, so my B was gurgling. I put cigarette paper into the key, and I pressed it down. The cigarette paper caught itself in the tone hole, and I couldn't get it out. And it was right after I played the tuning note, and we were starting. The second oboist, who was my student, who's now a heart surgeon, oboe prepares you for absolutely everything. She made her case to get her residency based on what she learned playing the oboe. She offered me her oboe, and I'm like, oh, no, I've got an idea, I've got this. And there are all these solos in Death and Transfiguration with B's in them. So, instead of being able to finger middle B and high B, I did half whole B for the middle B, and something came out. And for the high B, I used that Vienna fingering. And made it through as just a little improvisation. It's nice to have multiple options for things anytime there's a chance. So Annalise, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be playing.
My name is Annalise Wilson. I am 16. I've been playing oboe for about 7 years, and I prepare the second movement of the Marcello Concerto.
Marcello. Right before the pandemic, I performed the Marcello Concerto for the first time. I actually hadn't yet. So you have a big head start. Not to mention you started when you were 9. Very impressive. I didn't know what an oboe was till I was 13. Play a few notes, and then I think same as with Olivia, we can have you perform the whole thing. So yeah, play some notes, and then I'll be out here enjoying. I might say, when you're about to play the Marcello second movement, I might base your warm-up off what you need for the Marcello second movement.
Okay.
So think for a second, you want smooth high notes, right? Mm-hmm. So do maybe 10 seconds of smooth high notes. Yeah. Wonderful. Sounds fantastic.
Second movement?
Wonderful. glad you're doing exactly that set of ornaments. That's my preferred set. You're playing the C minor version. Harder to do that one. In my experience, the D minor is an easier key to play it in, but I know it's useful to study both for sure, and they each have their perks. Whenever I work on anything, I have a little bit of a hierarchy of what I like to emphasize. So there's rhythm being the most objective thing, followed by pitch, because like we discussed in the last with Olivia, there's a little bit of wiggle room with pitch. A B's not always going to be the same B. Then dynamics, somewhat subjective, and then interpretation. So like the things that we personally decide. And I always like to have all four emphasized in some way. For this, I want to talk about rhythm and about interpretation, but I want to reverse my normal order and start with interpretation, partly to get your face a break, because I know it's a very tiring piece. What do you think this movement's general mood is, if you had to choose one painting?
Very melancholy.
Melancholy. Yeah, it sounds like I got a very serious vibe of like, this is very serious music. I want you to try an alternative mood, serenity. It might be hard for me to play a different key, but. All partly because I love playing minor music not sad. It's nice to look at any opportunity to give minor music a little bit of lightness. So go for a stretch feeling serenity. And also you know that this edition is filled with dynamics Marcello wouldn't have written, that you don't need to do pianissimo, because that wouldn't have been. Great, so just go, your only mission is, if any of one of them is having a stressful day, fill them with serenity. Does that feel comfortable to do? And there are as many different ways to play this as there are moods. You could also play it with some amount of anger. You could play it with some amount of grief. Any mood works as long as you commit to it. But for me, I think serenity in this movement. I feel like it's a minor that never stays minor terribly long. The next thing, rhythmically. Have you played this with piano yet, or orchestra?
Yeah.
Piano. So what do you hear in the piano behind you, in your imagination?
Kind of like emphasizes what's going on in the oboe.
I'm thinking literal rhythms. Yeah, or you could either sing it or describe it.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Bum, 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 bum. And that almost never ends, the whole piece. Which, we talked about this a little bit last night, as far as which of our expressive devices we can use in any given piece. I knew going into the experience of playing it with an orchestra that it was always eighth notes, and I still underestimated how inflexible that was going to be for an orchestra full of people. It was a very nice community orchestra. The challenge for me was that we were doing it in 5 different locations, like Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Reno, Gardnerville. Some of them were upwards of 7,000 feet altitude, so breath management was a thing. But playing with a community orchestra, they weren't going to give me any rhythmic flexibility. They were also going to play kind of loud. So I had to, it sort of took volume and tempo stretching off the table. So we did this a little bit last night. I want you to conduct me for a stretch. Choose a few measures, and I'm going to want you to give me eighth notes. Where do you want me to play? Well, I've got an idea. Here. While I play there, I want you to have your fingers in the air and count 1 and 2 and 3 and while I play, and I want you to relentlessly not pay attention to me. So you're acting as the metronome conductor now. And for distance, you could be a little farther away. So give me a 1 and 2 and 3 and for nothing. 1 and say them.
2 and 3 and.
Oh, it's in 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
1 and 2 and 3 and.
Oh, keep saying it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so a lot of this is that you're engaging with it while I'm making the sound.
Okay.
Good, just go 3 and.
3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and
Yeah. It just felt in the last couple measures like that got easy for you now, right? It was uncomfortable at first. What felt like it changed?
I feel like I was just kind of going along with it. Well, I didn't see it as like so separated. I saw them as like the metronome.
It felt integrated, like it was a part of it. I think also when I play this piece, I'm often surprised by where 1 is. It's in some surprising locations. It's more rhythmically clever than we give it credit for. Now that you've had that experience of being the orchestra, play from that, the dom, di, bo. That's where we started, right? I'll give you a choice. Do you want me to be that metronome, or do you want to play it just having had that insight?
I think I would like to play it with having that in my head.
Just having it in your head, cool. So yeah, play the same stretch. Yeah. How does it feel different from how you were playing before?
Feels like it flows a lot better.
Yeah. So it gives it a sense of ease. One rhythmic correction I have here. Yes, it's 30 seconds in your edition. 30-second notes still aren't very fast. Anytime I'm trying to figure out, one of my favorite things, this is a music ed school. Is this a music ed school under a certain methodology like Orff, Kodai, Gordon, any of those? No. Takadimi. Cool. So there are all these different rhythmic syllables, and I love just saying into a room, hey, which rhythmic syllable system's the best, and then backing away. And watching opinionated people go after each other. When I meet new people, I like to use just a system of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat after me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now for 30, that's sixteenths. For 30 seconds, since the word seven has 2 syllables, I just go set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Nice. So we see these sixteenths and we think, like it should be the fastest thing we can play. 6 set 8 1. So say 1 2 3 4 5 6 set 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Now 1 6 set 8 1.
1, 6, 7, 8, 1.
Nice. So just that much. Yeah, so now that feels rhythmically accurate. The next thing is, when I play a piece this tiring, I look for maximum opportunities to cut off early. And the way that I buy myself that license is by tapering whatever note I'm on so it sounds like I ended it early on purpose. So a note like the E flat is one of the 2 best notes on the instrument. Maybe it is the best note. So play a half whole E flat using cushion from the muscular sides of the face. Nice taper. Awesome. Tapering is one of those things that I've found you can teach someone in their first month of playing. But it's something that I still, to this day, I hear back recordings and think, oh, I could have tapered that better. When we taper like that, that means we're using muscle instead of jaw. It means that our air must be moving in a focused way. It means our ear must be engaged. It means we must be poised. I do a lot of making tapers just to guarantee to myself that all those things are happening. So do another E flat with a nice taper. Dong. Nice. So you could do that on the E flat and the F there. Nice. We're going to give ourselves a couple measures to see what that advantage helps it feel like when we go on. Especially, we were talking this morning about how hard it is to play a solo oboe recital of any length. Even if you're getting up and playing one piece or if you're playing a whole program, it's tiring. So giving myself a lot of places where I can cut off early, provided the taper is smooth enough, makes me feel like I'm cheating in a way that makes me think I can make it through. So there. So go from here to there. You're going to give yourself early tapers on here, there, here, there. So we have 4 bonus tapers happening that weren't there before. Do you catch those 4 spots?
I didn't catch the last 2.
So here and there. So anything quarter note or longer. Yeah, so that allows you to get that break without having to take extra time that the orchestra won't give you. One last intervention. There are as many different interpretations as there are people. I like to trill above that B natural. Add a trill from the above note, see what that feels like. Ya-dee-da-da-dee-da-ya-dee. I don't usually have that low note. I must be tired from travel. Yeah, and you can start it on the upper note, the C.
Oh, okay.
for a nice long time. Dee, dee, ya. Yeah. For my interpretation, I would do that every time, but I also know that someone else might ask you for something different. Ultimately, you should do what you think sounds good. And I'll look forward to hearing you play again sometime. Sounds wonderful. Yeah. And now we have a trio, right? Quartet. Even better, by one. And I come in with no assumptions about this piece. This one's new to me. Does anyone have a score? No? We'll find another way. Oh, if it's not too disruptive. Okay. Okay, I wouldn't need it. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I can do, just so long as nobody minds if I'm looking over shoulders or anything. It's not judgmental, it's just holding on for dear life, hoping I have something to say. Is this short enough total movement you'd be happy doing the whole thing? Nice. So would one of you be willing to introduce it?
Liz, this is the, hi, this is the Royal Fanfare by Antonio Soler, and it's for 2 oboes and 2 English horns. Yeah.
There we go. I might, so this is one of the, we were talking backstage of like who's introducing what. Have your introduction match the mood of the piece that you're about to play. Try introducing it again.
Today we have the Royal Fanfare by Antonio Soler for 2 oboes, hot boys, whatever, the fancy word for oboes.
Oboe.
And oboes, and English horns.
Yeah. That royal really made my day.
Do we want to tune first?
Yeah.
I don't have
I
time.
would suggest not.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to do any pulling out, pushing it. I'd suggest that all of you play some notes. But yeah, the A would only tell you about the A, and the E on English horn's a little weird and sharp anyhow. Yeah. Yeah, tuning is most useful with open strings. think I'm supposed to be on here. I'll plainly admit, I don't like playing oboe alone. Playing with other people is so satisfying. Getting to hear matching tones again, I'm still not taking it for granted. There are 3 things that I want to do with this. One is that my default when playing, I don't know when this, do any of you know when this was written? Oh, there's a little bit of knowledge is power. Good to know. So I was asked last night how much I tend to know about stuff. I'm not that well read. I have a 2-year-old, so like most of the books I read have boards and are mostly about animal sounds. But when I'm playing a piece of music, it's nice to know 2 or 3 things about it that might inform how it is. Whether it's from the 18th century or it's more recent than that, it does sound like it's trying to evoke the 18th century. One of my gripes about seeing the Barrett book as being too universal. Do we all play out of the Barrett book? Some? So do I. I love it. I use it. All of my students do it at some point. Barrett book is all about growing, shrinking. Growing, shrinking. Having these nice long lines where you're able to extend and grow. Almost everything that I find myself doing in the Baroque and Classical era, rather than my default being to grow until the end, my default's almost always to shrink. Unless a line's going up, or if I have a syncopation or something interesting like that, which, there are no syncopations in this, right? Did I catch any? Yep, ba, 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 ba. Does anyone have any? No? Great, then no syncopations. So if you have a line going up, grow. Otherwise, almost anything in a piece like this should be, instead of more of a, so that every measure gets a diminuendo by default unless there's a reason not to. Would it make sense to do the first 12 measures just trying to diminuendo every measure for everybody, including, we talked about bells and swells. Let's actually do 2 versions. First, let's try held notes bell tone. Bong, bong. And then we'll do a version where we try swelling to see if it ever works. But first we'll try bells. I'd say main result, you had an easier time playing your melody out, right? Yeah. And being heard because everyone was disappearing. Logistically, does that feel like it's easy to accomplish? For fun, let's try a contrast where held notes of a dotted half note are, instead of being a bell tone, ba, more of a ba, ba, more of a messa di voce. So same stretch, but held notes swell instead of bell. My suspicion is we're going to prefer bell, but that swell works if you do it confidently also. Audience thoughts. Let's be y'all have an election coming up here, and this is a nonpartisan subject. How many preferred the first version that was like bell tones? Got a few. How many preferred the second version, which had more bwah? Okay, the bells win it, but swells had votes. So both had validity for sure. So that falls under. Did you have a preference from the angle of the player? Listener comes first, but player matters too, somewhat. Bell. Cool. So keep doing bells. My next thing is a bunch of people have played me Baroque music so far, and this is my first occasion to ask this. I almost always want Baroque music faster than what people do. My benchmark for something with this much articulation is that it should feel like the 16th notes can be played on the string instead of having to be D-da-da-da, more of a D-da-da-da-da. Do you talk on-wind, off-wind articulation at all? Great. Let's see. So we sort of used to use a melody balance. Eve, right? Let's have you play some half-whole Ds. First on-wind, uninterrupted, da, da, da. Nice, now bouncing like dum, dum, dum. Nice. I feel like when I try to play fast, if I try to make bounces like that, I get tense trying. Can I see somewhere where you have 16ths?
Yeah, of course.
Here. So if I tried to play this with a lot of bounce, I'm already tired. So I want to choose a tempo where I can do it with continuous air, but that it doesn't sound ridiculous. So if it's too slow, but if it's faster, it'll be crisp. And then it feels easy. Does that feel feasible to do? Do you want to try on-wind tonguing from there? Does that tempo feel uncomfortably fast to anyone? So, broad overarching statement on tempo choice. If I ever feel like, wow, that's fast, or wow, that's slow, I want to change the tempo. I always want the tempo to be sort of a just right solution. Does that feel comfortable to play?
Sure, yeah.
What's a comfortable spot prior to that to see how it integrates into the ensemble?
Before that?
Yeah.
Probably.
Is there a B? Is B before that?
Yeah, B is, but it's English horns only. Probably
Great, let's
A.
start with English horns at B. And so this will apply to everybody, including when you have dumb. So we bounce off the eighths, glide the 16ths. From B. To me, actually, my only possible concern going into doing this was that if it would have made your lives harder. Do I assume correctly that that actually made your lives easier? Cool. For me, also, just vulnerable insecurities time. My biggest worry going into any concert is that I'm going to get tired. So I'm much more scared of doing a tempo that's too slow than doing a tempo that's too fast. So when you have a chance to do that, even if it saves you 12 seconds of a piece, that makes your life much easier. Next thing is, in this setup, I think the toughest job belongs to second oboe. At any given time, sometimes your upper English horn, sometimes your lower oboe, and that's such its own mindset. I got to be friends with somebody who judged the Fish-Off chamber music competition once, and I asked him, gosh, how do you choose a winner when all these wonderful groups come in, and probably there are a bunch of amazing ones that don't walk away with the prize, and how do you make your choice? And he said, actually, you could quite easily judge that competition on mute. And that the best chamber groups are the ones that always know who they're with. So I want to mildly test myself a little bit. I want to see if I can play the second oboe part and give a physical model for if I can tell that I'm with the English horns, I'm going to be squared up looking at both of you. If I can tell I'm with oboe, I'm going to be looking at you. Would you mind if I read your part a little bit? So watch how I'm physically positioned when I do this.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see, then, back and forth. So same stretch, and you're going to make it obvious to the audience that you're doing the same thing. That felt disconcerting. Is your stand too high?
Now there's some water in my instrument.
Oh, that was you yesterday too, right?
Yeah.
The best place to get water is in front of a room full of oboists. You're among friends, and it ignites empathy in all of us. I would lower your stand though.
Okay.
It looks like you might not. Liz?
Yeah.
Looks like you might not be able to see Liz.
Okay.
Can you make eye contact with? Can you at least see Liz's nose?
Yeah.
Can you see Liz's chin?
Yep.
Excellent. Great. Again from the beginning. And now I'll be able to see more where you're looking. Wonderful. There's something, I feel like the sound blends better, the pitch blends better when you just catch someone's eyes. So, much as I made light of watching conductors, I do try to watch conductors really hard. It is a wonderful part of the interaction. I love playing orchestral music. When I'm playing in a chamber group, so much solves itself if I'm making eye contact with other people and getting out of the stand. This sounds really fun. Do you have this for a performance coming up?
We did it already.
You did it already. Okay, old pros. Do you get to do it again? Maybe?
I don't know.
Hopefully you do. The group balances really well. I could always hear who had the tune. And yeah, thanks for being willing to try a tempo you hadn't done before, especially. I know that it's hard to do a new tempo, but it sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. That was fabulous. And another round of applause for all of the masterclass participants. Whoa. Really fabulous. Next part of today is everyone to move to 1075 to do an adjustment class. To get to 1075, we're going to go out this door, go over in that direction, which is to your left, and down the hall, and the hall is going to zigzag, and then you're going to get to the end to room 1075. Hopefully I'm making sense. These guys here are going to be available to follow.